Kensil Culture, Puppets, Props, Puns, Podcasts.
Yeah, I'm a collector. I have everything. You know what I mean? But mine is a little messier than yours. I wouldn't. My 6 to 60s are in boxes with with my man.
My shit. Don't be fooled. My shit is laying around, and I got, a frightening amount of and so much. I have all the lines I ever wrote for Howard, and all those days things would happen. I'd put something down, or save something and put it in the. There's so much there. I got so many autographed notes that are signed by celebrities. I have all the original scripts from the bits that we did because, and they're all in Howard's handwriting because we'd sit there, me and Fred would toss ideas and Howard would write them down until we had a script. And at the end of the day, nobody, it was going in the garbage. So I just brought it home,
Well, when I went to see you at Howard's show, you were writing down on little pieces of paper, and then you would hold them up or hand them to him or put them in a thing like that. But by the end of the show, the place was littered like it was a ticker tape parade. It was like I thought that was the coolest because my act. I throw everything around.
I saved the notes that he read, but whatever he didn't read, I crumpled up. And, sometimes I'd be sitting up to my thighs and fucking,
Yeah, that was the greatest. And, and you wouldn't see it on on the video or hear it on the thing, but it was the constant.
It was the proverbial cutting room floor. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Great.
And, Dennis Wolfberg, because he lost his notebooks. Okay, somebody stole his notebooks and his clothes and everything. It was because of him. I didn't write in notebooks. I always wrote on pieces of paper that were around the club, and if I lost those, I only lost those, and everything else was safe. And I wouldn't have a book to lose. But because of that, I have flyers from every old place that I used to play, every the Penny Arcade, and anything
right.
In these obscure clubs, and you can't believe how the fashions change and how cheap some of the things were back in the day.
The old days, Jerry Stanley and what's his name?
Jerry Stanley. I still talk to Jerry Stanley. He was one of the first promoters out there who would take and make the 3-man shows in bars and restaurants.
Right. I worked a lot. I worked all those, and I had a couple of those because there was a guy named Ron Richards who used to do shows, but he had an amplifier and a mic. And if he had more shows, he'd say, "Jackie, I know you got an amplifier and a mic. I'll give you, And he gave me Mustache Pete's, and I still have the book that has the bookings in his handwriting, and then segues to my handwriting. And you see Wolfberg, Seinfeld, Overton, Reiser.
Yeah.
Funny, everybody's last name, and then it would say Jackie. Everybody else, Murphy, Seinfeld, Overton.
Well, you were always. I have right here. I don't know if I know you can see it. It's the famous, which was ahead of all marketing in the whole world. This is before computers, okay? This is before you had use your finger, okay? Dial a joke, and these were stickers, like I guess that's what you call them. Yeah. But Jackie would challenge you to see how high in the men's room of a look right there.
That's what's the
yes, lady, Jack, and they were sticky, so you would have to get up so people wouldn't take it down. You would go into a men's room or into a thing, and you would put it as high as you could, right? And so people it would stay there and not be.
You know where I used to put them when I pull up to the toll booth?
Okay, So you started that trend.
I put him on the remember the big vagina where you put the quarters?
Sure.
But it's funny when I saw that 516-922-WINE before the show. I was thinking, what was the number from that? And that number came up, and the other one was 1-800-540-BAG. Like that was the number on the Stern show to call for
1-800-BAG-5040.
That's it. Back
and then
what was that for?
1-800-52 Stern.
Right.
Frank Zappa was supposed to come on the show, and he died. And at the time, Howard was peddling one of those stupid videos, a pay-per-view or one of those U.S. open source or something, and he'd sell the VHSs. And he'd do the commercials every 5 seconds. Whenever we did one of those shows, guys would be like, oh, Christ, we're going to have to listen to him promote every 5 seconds. So Zappa dies. So his widow comes on the show. And I wrote this line, and she peed her pants laughing. Howard said, now, I don't forget her name, like, hey, Charlotte, is it true that Frank's last words were, please call 1-800-50? She went crazy because she was Frank Zappa's widow, God, just great stuff. Holy shit.
For Christmas, somebody got me Robert Blake's biography and his autograph inside. It was like $20. But when he was on the Stern show, he was discussing a movie he made about the mass murder in New Jersey where the guy ran off and started a whole new identity, and they didn't get him for like 30 years.
John List.
Well,
okay.
Well, Robert Blake was promoting the show or promoting the movie on Stern show, and it's a sad story. Like it came from abuse, it's just a horrible life. And Stern says to him, "You're in this movie with Valerie Perrine. It's like a C cup." He just totally ignored this horrible story.
Sometimes that's shock value. That works.
I remember Blake being on the show so vividly because when he first came in, he sat down and Howard started with the same thing he would say to everybody. And, hey, how you doing? How big's your penis? What got laid, blah, blah, blah. And this guy went from 0 to 60, in seconds.
Yes.
Got incensed. He got up and he said, I don't listen. I'm not your dancing monkey. I don't listen to that crap. I'll come right over this console. I'll beat you. And in 2 seconds, Ronnie and Gary come into the studio and they're behind him. And this guy was out of his mind. And I remember saying to myself, holy Christ, that guy's going to murder somebody someday. And then he did. He murdered
the child actors, you got to watch. That's what it probably stemmed from. He was a child actor and got his way all those years and became a bad adult. Because
or else everybody had their way with him one way or another.
He was, he was in more than just 1 or 2 movies. He was like, he was the go-to kid.
Oh, yeah.
At Warner Brothers.
Funny, I never did before, but in the last couple of months, I think twice, all of a sudden, Alfalfa has popped up in a couple movies, when he's a little bit older,
The Christmas
like, God damn, that's Alfalfa.
He was in the one where the Defiant Ones, okay, where he where Tony Curtis and who's Sidney Poitier when they're chained together.
Oh, really?
The Defiant Ones. Alfalfa is he doesn't have any lines. He is the dog wrangler for when they've got the dogs out looking for Tony Curtis and Sidney Poitier. And there's Alfalfa. He's there for the whole movie, and all he does is listen to the radio. They don't give him a line. And that was a big-time movie. I think that was one of his last, too, because he was in that business of,
extra
deer hunting, and, he rented out dogs, and so that's why they had him in the movie. But how about Darla Hood? Did you ever see what happened to her?
I remember I've read about all the stuff years ago, but I don't remember what happened to her.
What? She became a singer. She was on she had her own show, and Mel Torme would come on. People would get, I mean, legit singers would come on. And she was so cute still in her adulthood, but she almost could sing. You know what I mean? I don't think it lasted too long. It was in the early 50s. So,
yeah, you know, at some point, John Ferrantino, for some reason, he was in Dallas a million years ago when it wasn't common to be down there. And he went and he met with Spanky, who I guess was just an incredible asshole. You know,
he was a car salesman at the end.
Is that right?
He sold cars here in Philadelphia on Car Row or whatever it is. We got tons of car things, but he was a big time car salesman for a while. And he was always on the Mike Douglas show, okay? Because that was here in Philly. And who's the guy who wrote Evergreen and the Phantom of the
Paul
little
Paul Williams.
Paul Williams. Paul Williams says in his movie that they made about Paul Williams, which is a great movie, that the best Coke in the world was in Philadelphia at that time. And so everybody wanted to be on that show. That's why John Lennon came here. That's why, different people who like to indulge. That's why they came to the
I
Mike
spent
Douglas
an
show.
entire afternoon in Easter time, 1980. I spent an entire Sunday afternoon sitting in the living room with Paul Williams and his wife and Rodney Dangerfield with a mountain of Coke on the.
So, yeah, I mean, that was, he would get all sorts of movie stars to get out there. You know, the people who he had on his show were,
Jackie, I read in the Doug Kenny biography, like National Lampoon, and he wrote Caddyshack. I swear it's in that book, but they mentioned when they were casting Caddyshack, Rodney was a champ in it, but they said that the other person they eyed up was Don Rickles. And I think that would have been just as funny with Don Rickles in Caddyshack.
To me, that's one of those things where I can't even do that math. I can't imagine somebody, they're like, can you imagine Gary Cooper and Gone with the Wind? You just can't do that math. What I mean? Like,
how about Dangerfields had the band, right? And because I had so many props, okay, the drummer couldn't be up there, okay? And so the drummer would buy me drinks all night because he's going, oh, man, I love it when you play here. So I think more than me being funny, I think it was me, the drummer put in a good word for me. But I remember being there, and Red Fox and Rodney were in the, how the place was set up? It had like a couple levels, okay, that you can go upstairs, and there was a stairwell and everything. They cursed each other out in every N-word, every curse that you could imagine. And they just kept it up and kept it up and kept it up. And it was funny to hear these guys, but they had nothing to say to each other except insults. It was refreshing. I'm sure that they were both,
I have a question for you. Is that story true with Red Fox when he went to the casino and he walked out and there was no audience, but the band was playing?
The
theme.
The band played that, and Fred looked at the audience and saw that there was 10 people in there, in Atlantic City, and he said,
"Fuck you," and that's that.
The band picked up,
and he left, and they're still playing Quincy Jones, man.
I heard that. I know. I went to see him. Me and Minervini were actually doing coke in the bathroom with Slappy White, who was the opening act. And Fox came out to this packed, like it was almost like a dance club, just I'm sure he's doing it for the money. And he came out and everybody do Fred Sanford, and which annoyed him, just like people telling Jimmy what's his face to say Dynamite. That's the last
Yeah.
thing he wants to do. He said, "Fuck Fred Sanford." You know, for 55 years I was Red Fox. I ain't fucking Fred Sanford. I'm Red Fox. But meanwhile, that was his real name, Fred Sanford, in real life. You know? But he turned around and did his whole act for the 2 or 3 piece jazz group that was there. He did his whole act to the band with his back to the crowd. I'll never forget that. It was, you know, it was actually fun, you know. Oh, let me look.
Well, look at that test pattern. Beautiful.
I'm looking to see if I know Barbara was supposed to have her relatives come over today. They're not here yet. So
Sherman Hemsley tried to do comedy for a while because at the end of his career, he lost his savings, and he appeared twice in Philadelphia here. And I went to go see him.
Yeah.
Nobody showed up. I go, "Where's Sherman Hemsley?" And she said, "He's laying over there on the bench in a booth, and he was sleeping." And oh, Jackie, one time in Philly, they booked a one-nighter with Frank Gorshin from The Riddler. And I was the opening act, and I went down to it, and I had just a generic, there was an older crowd. A lot of people didn't really remember him from Batman. Of course, we all do. But in the middle of his act, he did an impersonation of Frederick March as Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and he demanded a green spotlight on his face, and he didn't get it. And this is 15 minutes of his act, and he said, "Fuck this, unprofessional," and stormed off.
you know, he was like, you know, I was in a movie, a great one called Potluck, and it was such an odd movie. It was about a guy, a gang, almost like a private eye and his sidekick and his mole. And it was the private eye and his sidekick was a little Chinese guy, and he had a sexy girl. And then the mobsters in this movie are watching these old movies with them in it. But then in real life, he's in the movie, and the gangster has now become the old gangster is now Frank Gorshin, and his mole is Sylvia Miles, and his right hand guy is what was his name? Somebody, that famous Chinese actor that was in every fucking movie you've ever seen. Right. And all of a sudden, at some point, you go, "That's the same guy every time." And me and him got drunk.
Same guy.
But yeah, but Gorshin was great, and my role was to come out of the crowd and insult Sylvia Miles. And I said, "Are you sure?" And they said, "No, just do it. Just wing it." And I came out of there, and I insulted the piss out of this old broad, and she got really pissed off. She went to the director, and I'm like, "Hey, that's what they told me to do." And Gorshin pulled me to the side. He said, "I wanted to tell that cunt something like that." A big hug, you know. Yeah,
he was a big star with the Playboy clubs. He was like would play all the Playboy clubs, you know, because, and I heard that from people who would book him that he was like the number one guy for those things. You know what I mean?
It's very believable because he was so talented. You know, there's a lot of guys that made their living going from Playboy, you know, long before the people were going from improv to improv to improv. The Playboy clubs in the early 70s, you know, they'd be packed. They'd be packed with all Chinese guys, but who knew that at least the audience would be full, you know? And these guys that, you know, good food, good money. There's always girls, booze, drugs, you know.
He could sing, and those impressions. I mean, who did a better, you know, Burt Lancaster than him? You know, he did like Burt Lancaster and you know, so many others that it was.
That's fun. You see the old Ed Sullivan shows. The old Ed Sullivan shows when he was on, he was a killer. You know.
And he was in 12 Monkeys. Did you see him in 12 Monkeys?
I don't remember.
But sometimes on Saturday, right? Oh, sorry.
In 12 Monkeys, he lets his false teeth come out and then shoots them back in. He said that would be for effect. Okay, they did that here in Phil.
That's when he was filming that. That's when I opened for him.
Yeah, that's that. But he was something else. I
Oh.
mean, he was also in those beach movies and everything,
Oh yeah, like with the Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello.
Yeah, and Annette. I mean, he was in those as as a character actor. Did he? I guess he did some.
He did a George Burns one-man show.
That's what he wanted to do. The George Burns one-man show. I gotta get.
Oh, he's
Sorry,
sorry, Jack.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, we have been yapping for forever, and let's wrap it up. We'll promote Jackie's book here.
I'd say let's wrap it up, but I'm ready to do it again anytime.
You got it. Whenever you, yes, definitely.
All right. Yeah, I'm here. I mean,
Showdown.
right there. Okay. Here.
Go
Here,
to the phone.
you do
right
it.
there. Right there. Check out Jackie's book. Check out Jackie on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram.
Where else, Jack?
Like the book is Joke Man, Bow to Stern, but you have to include Joke Man because if you just Google Bow to Stern, you get a 7th grade sailing manual. So
How about
Joke Man, Bow to Stern? I'm on TikTok / Jackie Martling. And I actually had one joke that got so far has 1.1 million views that doesn't do anything for me except give me bragging rights. But it was a classic joke. And
was this on Julia's show?
Huh?
On Julia's show?
I did
when you
Julia's show a while back.
Yeah. Did you tell it on that show?
I didn't hear it.
I might have. I don't know. The TikTok jokes I have are just jokes I do specifically for TikTok.
It's the $1 million one. The million viewer.
Which I think the million viewer was the famous motorcycle joke.
Okay.
So the guy goes to visit his girlfriend. he's buying a used motorcycle from his cousin.
Uh-huh.
And he goes to pick it up and he says to his cousin, "My God, your motorcycle's so shiny. It's a used motorcycle, but it's like new. What's your secret?" And his cousin says, "Well, I got a tube of Vaseline. And anytime it's about to rain, I just coat the chrome with the Vaseline. And that way it doesn't tarnish and it doesn't rust. In fact, you're taking a motorcycle. I don't need it. Here, take the tube of Vaseline." All right. So he gets on a motorcycle. He's going to pick up his girlfriend, who's been going out with for a couple months. And they're going to go to her parents' house and he's going to meet them. And they're going to have dinner for the very first time. So she gets on the back of the motorcycle. And on the way, she says, "I think I should tell you something. My family's very weird. You can't talk during dinner. Because if you talk during dinner, you got to do the dishes." He says, "All right, big deal." So they're on the way and they get to the house. The whole front yard is full of dirty dishes. The porch is all full of dirty dishes. They go inside the living room, the stairs going up. The whole is dirt everywhere you look. They haven't done the dishes in years. So what's he going to say? So they sit down to dinner and the whole meal, nobody talks. Nobody says nothing. He's done eating. He's a little bit horny because nobody's going to say anything. So he takes his girlfriend and undresses her and puts her on the dining room table and he fucks her. And nobody says anything. And, he's still a little horny. He looks over. Her mother's kind of cute. Nobody's going to say anything. So he pushes his girlfriend out of the way and puts her mother on the table and fucks her. And just as he's finishing fucking her mother, he looks out the window and he sees it starting to rain on his motorcycle. So he reaches his pocket and takes out the tube of Vaseline. The father jumps up and says, all right, I'll do the fucking dishes."
Jackie, I know from now on that's going to get 3 million. All right, hits. All right.
So
Vaseline.
I did not curse. Somehow I got away with however I said it, but it's just
well, that's the way you have to do it sometimes,
But I told the dirtiest joke in the world on there because they must have a Chinese thing that goes looking for the word, penis. I got a joke. They don't delete them, but they mute them. And I got a joke muted because I said the word dildo. And I got a joke muted because I said the word masturbate. But I've had jokes in there so filthy. The girl goes in and says to the guy behind the counter, I need to buy a dozen condoms. And the guy says, oh, you don't want to have any kids, huh? And she says, no, my boyfriend doesn't want to get any poop on his rocket. which sailed right by.
When you told the joke about the Italian guy in bed with his wife, and he dies and he comes back as a chicken.
Yeah.
I heard you tell that on the Simone show.
Yeah,
that was hilarious.
He couldn't believe I got away with that. I've been really pushing the envelope with him.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, he lets me get away with murder. All right, so listen, March 4th.
Jackie, I can't tell you how wonderful that was.
March 4th,
Thursday,
March 4th.
Thursday, March 4th at the Suffolk Theater in Riverhead. And then in Boston for the whole first week of August with Lenny Clark. I don't know if you know him, but he's just...
I love Lenny Clark. Lenny Clark.
We met over...
I just talked to him not too long ago.
No, not Lenny Schultz, Lenny Clark.
Yeah, we met over a pile of cocaine at the Tampa Comedy Club, Giggles, in 1985. And what else? And plus I'm doing and Stand-Up Memories. If you go to standupmemories.com, it's me and Peter. We're just starting our third season, and we had on Joey Cola, and then Joey Cola and his wife, and then we had Carrie Caravas, and then her and her husband, and then we had what's his name? I can never think of these people's names, and his wife, and it's such an interesting take when you get So we're having fun. It's just me and Bales, and we make fun of each other. It's like we're not setting the world on fire. I'm a much better guest than I am an interviewer. Like I like to yak on. And 516-922-WINE is still going. People cannot believe it. People come up to me and say, Jackie, 30 years ago, I used to call that stupid joke line of yours. And now everybody has a cell phone. I say, well, it's still working. Like, what are you talking about? I said, go ahead, dial it. And they'll take out the cell phone, 516-922-WINE. Hello, this is Jackie. And I love it when you use your fingers. They feel like they're in a fucking time warp,
It'll stay with you forever, okay? And, those jokes that I would hear. Did you have a little machine at one time, a joke machine?
I had so many machines. I met a guy. Right after I got off the Stern Show, I met a guy who owned Excalibur Electronics, whose father got rich because he was watching Star Trek, and Spock was playing chess against a robot. And this guy's
three-tier one?
This guy said, I could do that in real life. And he invented the first electronic chess. And they did all the chess business. And then this guy, inherited the business from his father. At one point, I had 15 products with him. I had a joke machine, a text joke machine, kids joke machines. I had an insult mirror. I had an alarm clock, a comedy calculator. Actually, I had a comedy calculator that I recorded so many noises for because people love my stupid noises. Like when you hit 1, 2, 3 times 24 equals 75,300. And there was 5 alarm clocks. I did one of the alarms was and people went nuts. And the guy was doing so well that he overexpanded and lost the entire business. That's like one Christmas I sold 35,000 Joke Master Juniors, this little gadget, you push the nose and had a kid's joke. And I thought, I'm going to get rich. And it was sold on Sharper Image. And the next year, those cocksuckers knocked it off and made their own version of the same thing. And I'm like,
unbelievable.
I'm like,
unbelievable. Sharper Image.
But the guy sold so many products through them, he couldn't make waves because it was just my one product. But meanwhile, that's supposed to make me $1 million. My whole career is, I'm lucky enough that Howard looked at my albums, but unfortunate enough that,
Did you keep those machines too? Do you have like
I got representatives of them here, there, and everywhere. They're for sale on you know what? I'll send you an iPhone video of them operating. I mean, I had a little box with 100 of the filthiest, most wonderful jokes. And it's funny, I had a good friend of mine owned a motorcycle place, and he was really dear friends with Billy Joel, and he had the box on his desk, and he would hit the button once in a while to hear a joke, and he hit the button, and I told a joke, and 5 seconds later Billy came walking into his office and just missed it. It was like musicians got it made, not comedians. Look at Billy Joel. Billy Joel is fucking girls that look like Christy Brinkley, and I'm fucking girls that look like Billy Joel.
That's mean to say about. That's mean to say about his daughter. Oh man, his daughter looks just like him.
The gadgets were fantastic. There was an old mirror in the old days where you held it up and it laughed, like it's laughing at your face. But this actually insulted you. Like, is that your head or did your neck throw up? That kind of stuff. I had 15 products. I thought I was, at one point I made a couple $100,000, and then the guy completely went under.
It's so funny. That was before computers, that was before the computer got popular. And, it's so funny to think of the old technology that,
that was recent. There was still the computers, but just not to the point where they are now. 15 years ago, I had an app, but this was back when Apple was just going with the apps and you weren't allowed to use anything off color. So I had a little app called the Jackie button. And it had buttons and you could choose marriage, you could choose lawyers, whatever, and you could make it so, and it also had noises. And you could make it so it told jokes at random, or it told all the marriage jokes at random, or you could set a button to play your favorite joke. It was unbelievable. But iPhone 2, iPhone 3, all of a sudden the girl broke up with me, who was best friends with the girl who was married to the guy that did the button for me for free. But then she moved on and the iPhone moved on and the button doesn't work anymore. But if that thing was operating now with dirty jokes, but I can't find anybody that'll do the app for me. With all these people that love me and want to do all this stuff for me, if there's anybody out there that does apps, call me. We'll make $1 billion. Imagine just hit a button and you got a dirty joke right there.